Tonight on SBS comes a new show, Addicted Australia, and that's produced by Blackfella Films. It challenges the notions of what an addict is and puts everyday familiar faces to addiction. It's a confronting and inspiring 4-part docu-series as 10 individuals face a 6-month program to recovery. Take a look.
I started drinking when I was 13 and I'm now 62.
I'm a heroin user, but I'm no different to anybody around me.
I'm here because I want help.
I just want to be free of the chain to the drug.
There is the possibility of recovery for every patient.
He needs to stop because he's probably going to die.
Emergency services. Is your daughter responding?
I just need something to change. I just need something to shift.
We're going to win it. We're going to win it together.
Your children will be proud of you. Your friends will be proud of you.
He's really put in the hard yards.
Stopped drinking for 9 weeks, swapped it for this boat.
And you've got so much to look forward to now.
Addicted Australia starts Tuesday 10th of November on SBS and on demand.
Well, Jacob Hickey is the series producer of this amazing series and he joins us now on the Ben Robin Robbo Show. Jacob, welcome.
Thanks very much for having me.
Look, Jacob, this is pretty revolutionary, this show, and when you consider the stigma that still exists around addiction, 1 in 5 Australians will experience drug, alcohol or gambling addiction at some point in their lives. Why does this stigma still exist?
Look, it's a great question. I think we have a fear. I think we have a fear of addiction. I think we have a fear ourselves and we have a fear of those around us. I also think that we all have to take responsibility as well, actually, in the media, because I don't think it's a subject that has been particularly well discussed. And often the myths and stereotypes are perpetuated, not always intentionally, but it's just the fact that they are. And so we hear the same kinds of stories about what so-called addicts are like. And I think that continues the stigma, continues the stereotype.
So, Jacob, what about you, though, on a personal level? Did you have any of your preconceived notions or misconceptions challenged while you were making the series?
Look, I thought I knew a reasonable amount about addiction through research and looking into it. But actually, every time, you know, Blackfella Films are involved in a big series like this, you always have preconceptions challenged. I think if I didn't know it before, and I really should have done, addicts, so-called addicts, are people first who have had trauma in their lives, and that's the unifying thing here. And that was probably the most shocking thing to me, to realise that nobody chooses to be an addict. Something has happened, something has set them off on this journey, and I think that was the thing that was most challenged. That and the fact that, you know, as the saying goes, there's a lot more that unifies us than separates us, and so the realisation that this could be any of us. It could be someone we know, it could be someone we love.
Yeah, it's frightening how common these stories can be. But as a producer, you know, you actually had to stand back and watch in such highly emotional and intense environments. You know, there was a moment watching the show where someone said that they were going to go into another room and they were going to use ice. And I can't even imagine. But is it hard to not step in at those moments and say something?
Look, I think it is. I think it is when you're dealing with real life, but I guess that is our job. And right from the beginning, you know, we're very clear with all the people involved in the show that we are there to observe. We had a lot of duty of care and protocols and code of conduct that's written at the beginning about behaviour on set, as we call it. But at the end of the day, we have to allow people, well, they were good enough to allow us into their lives, and we were there to observe their lives.
You know, one of the doctors in the series says seeking support is a lottery. Do you think the government needs to be doing more in this area?
Look, of course. I think, again, that was one of the surprises for me. When Professor Dan Ludeman, I think, is the guy you're talking about. And yeah, Dan's taught me through the lottery that is seeking help. I think if we were to compare this to, say, other health disorders, be it diabetes, heart disease, and he explained this to me, there is a process of care that is expected. There is a uniformity to what you would expect if you went to your GP and suggested that those were the things that you might be suffering from. We don't have that same system for addiction. That was a surprise for me. And we have to ask ourselves why. We have to ask ourselves, why don't we have the same system in place for addiction? And it must be because simply we don't care as much. And that's because of the shame and the stigma that surrounds addiction. And until we do, we'll continue down this path. And the great irony, of course, is why don't we when we know it's going to impact us at some point?
So, Jacob, you've spoken before about the stigma and about, that's one of the first kind of barriers we need to overcome if we're going to treat addiction properly in the way that it should be treated. But what are some of the other takeaways that you hope the audience, gets from the show?
Yeah, I think that point about the so-called addicts are people first who happen to be suffering from what is a health condition and a mental health condition. I think people knowing and feeling that after watching the series, I think that's hugely important. But of course, knowing that it also takes 20 years for people to seek help for a problem. We're really hoping this show inspires people to put their hand up and seek treatment and seek help.
This show is a total investment. Look, it's so well done. And I think for you and your connection to these people that are affected and the viewers' connection to these people as well, I can imagine we need to see a follow-up of this season just to be able to, touch back in with these people and see where their journey has taken them. Is that something we're going to see?
Yeah, look, I think that would be great. Without giving the game away, it's a 4-part series, and we actually followed the 10 people and their families for 6 months on the treatment program. But then at the very end, we caught up with them a further 6 months later. So there was actually a whole year in their life. So we only finished filming a matter of weeks ago, even though it's only on air in a few weeks' time. So we do absolutely have a follow-up included. And of course, I would say this, but people should hang on until episode 4.
Well, indeed, and you can start by watching tonight. Addicted Australia premieres tonight on SBS at 8:30 p.m. and continues weekly, and with that resolution that we'll have to stick around for. Jacob, thank you for joining us on the Ben Robin Robbo Show.
Thanks, guys.
And remember, if this has brought up issues for you, please reach out for help to the Alcohol and Drug Foundation on 1300 858584 or Gambling Help on 1800 858 858.
It's the Ben Robin Robbo, Ben Robin Robbo.